took over as the managing director of EMS Press in 2019, and just to give you a bit of background, the EMS Press is publishing house of the European Mathematical Society. It was re-established when I joined with new branding and also a new open access mandate, and that's what the topic here is about, with the priorities of fairness and sustainability. The publishing house is publishing 26 journals at the moment. I'll talk about the next year in a bit. And we're also publishing around 10 new books per year. The journals are partially the EMS's own publications, or we publish on behalf of other mathematical institutions or societies. In 24, from 24 on, we have managed to publish all our journals open access. And this presentation is basically to show you how we do that. It's basically a mix of subscribe to open and Diamond open access. So you mentioned already Diamond, Jess. I'll definitely comment on that, and we can also discuss further aspects of Diamond open access. And then there is a very new development that's called Launch to Open, which is a model that allows journals to leave commercial publishers, which we're very proud of. And this is the hot stuff. So mission open access. We had the clear mandate from the European Mathematical Society to implement open access publishing, but it should be fair and also sustainable. The predominant model that we see, and I guess this also applies definitely to neurosciences and medical sciences, is APCs. So where authors pay a fee to publish their article open access. This might be wrapped in other names, for example, Read and Publish Deal or the Deal Consortium in Germany. But underlying is still the fundamental idea that you pay per article eventually. And the APC means the paywall is essentially moved from the reading side to the publishing side, and that means that researchers that do not have the funding for APCs are denied the right to publish, which is clearly unfair. So you have an automatic distortion of the publishing ecosystem, with like immediate also editorial consequences, like that you are not able to attract all articles anymore that you have been in the past. And then on top, researchers have to deal with all the administrative stuff, like the invoices that you get sent from the publisher. Often, I learned even with the Deal Consortium in place that was supposed to actually take this burden away from researchers. Some institutions now decided that they actually charge part of this fee that the university should pay, that they charge this to the author or the faculty or the department. Nobody knows really how this is done. But this was just introduced at the technical university, for example, which is clearly like an administrative and also financial burden for the authors. There's another aspect of APCs that we did not like, which is that essentially more articles mean more revenue, which is nice for a publishing house. But when you think about the editorial side of things, it introduces the danger of sacrificing quality for increased profits, which is clearly happening at commercial publishers. And there is also on the other side, on the institution side, an ever-increasing cost for them with basically little or no transparency at all. And that's not really sustainable. We looked into Diamond Open Access, so here it comes again, for our big portfolio, which is at least the models that we looked at back then. was not sustainable. So you get short-term funding often, sometimes from only one specific geographic region, let's say from even one country, and maybe some donations, but this is not something to build your entire portfolio of 22 journals on. So that was not an option at this point. And the decision back then was to really reject APCs, and we needed another model that is based on sustainability and fairness. The winner in our research that we did was Subscribe to Open, which was pioneered by the publisher Annual Reviews. They did a pilot in 2020, and we jumped on board in 21. How does it work? It's essentially a continuation of the subscription model. So libraries subscribe to journals for the coming subscription year. So I call that subscription year Y, mathematically correct. And at the end, or at a cutoff date for us, this is the end of January of the subscription year. We make a decision. If the revenue for a particular journal is sufficient to publish the journal sustainably for that year, we simply make all issues in that year open access. And then this process basically repeats. If it's not sufficient, only subscribers have access to the content of that year. The full subscription benefits are still valid as usual. So you get access to the archive and also access to online first articles, which is like what we publish ahead of the schedule, basically. And we implement some incentive pricing. So subscribers basically have to pay a little more after that cutoff date to incentivize them to subscribe early before this decision is made. So that's an annual repeating process visualized here. So libraries subscribe to a journal or journals as usual. And if that threshold, that sustainability threshold is reached, the journal becomes open access for that year. And if not, only subscribers have access. So the worst case is basically what many still do as the regular practice. But if there is enough revenue in the system, the side effect is essentially open access, and that's obviously the goal. So, and that repeats then year by year. If open access, so it's important to highlight that the open access status is not really guaranteed in that model. So you cannot know in advance that you will publish open access, but we allow the authors to take their author-accepted manuscript, so what has gone through peer review and revisions, but has not gone through our production system. We allow them to deposit this on preprint servers like arXiv or institutional repositories, and that is compliant with all the funder requirements. So if a funder says you have to publish open access, they usually also allow you to deposit the manuscript on a preprint server. The question is whether the publisher allows that, but we definitely do that and also encourage that. So the benefits of Subscribe to Open are for researchers in particular that open access publishing is available to all authors and not based on a payment. So you are not paying for your open access article. There's no financial or administrative burden. As I said, there's compliance with the funder or institutional requirements. You publish where you choose, not where your institution has an agreement. And the system is based on relevance and quality and not based on cost. So, which is like for the editorial side, I think a very strong argument. So there's no pressure to accept more articles, for example, as in many commercial publishers. For the institutions and funders, there are also some benefits. Basically, subscriptions simply operate as before, so we have the same relationship. It's very easy for them, but now it supports open access. It's a very clear basis for budget decisions. You know in advance what the price is, you pay, and you don't receive a bunch of invoices a year later, which depends on the publishing output, and you don't know that in advance. And you guarantee access to all the content, like with these big deals. So you get access to the entire archive and to online first articles with your subscription. So message to libraries is if you need a journal, you have to subscribe. But then that's all. You don't need to worry about any further invoices or things like that afterwards. So it's really simple. I just put here the timeline, how we implemented this in the publishing house. So in the beginning, we did a pilot with 10 journals, following a consultation with the community, so with the society and society members. And we started in 21 to publish these 10 journals open access. Then for the next year, we went in with 17 journals. Again, all went open access in 22, then 21 journals for 23, and now we have since 24 full open access publishing for all 22 subscription journals, and there are these 4 diamond journals that are a bit special. So that's essentially what I wanted to say about subscribe to open. I would like to also introduce this other model that we just now launched, which is called Launch to Open. It's related to subscribe to open, and it could be very interesting for journals that are currently published by a commercial publisher. So the goal is to allow established journals to leave their commercial publisher and go into a community model. So I say EMS Press here, but obviously the model can be replicated by others. And um, the problem is with commercial publishers. One of the problems is that when you try to move a journal away from that publisher, you're basically locked into their current economic model. So they use big deals, like say big bundles. So you basically can only buy everything or nothing. And that's what libraries often have to do. So they have to subscribe to everything, which eventually means that nobody knows anymore who's subscribing to what. Like they're all subscribing to everything, but nobody knows anymore. Is it this particular journal that is of interest or another? Um, Same goes with the read and publish deals, like also the deal consortium or APCs have a similar problem. There are just no subscriptions anymore. That's the basic problem. Nobody knows anymore like who has subscribed to this before. And that's a problem for subscribe to open relying on subscriptions. So you basically have to assume there are 0 subscriptions and you need a certain amount to cover your costs. So plain subscribe to open does not work. So we had a couple of ideas. Maybe we just leave the journal closed for a couple of years to build up subscriptions, or like to have some incubator period. And that was all not very satisfying until we had a new idea based on actually Diamond Open Access funding. There is a German consortium called Koala funding Diamond Open Access journals. And I had a conversation with them, um, and they basically said that they are very successful in funding journals in the short term. So there's funding for usually 3 years, and a couple of institutions throw money in the pot, basically like crowdfunding campaign, and that then should be sufficient for 3 years. And after 3 years, nobody knows what's going to happen. So you really risk the life of the journal in a sense if you do this. And for some community-run journals, this is really great because they are operating on a very low cost basis, often actually with a lot of like free labor, like people who are working on this in their free time, which is also a problem, I think. Not very sustainable. But Diamond Open Access is really good as a short-term solution. So that's the summary. It's very good for short-term, but not so good for long-term, at least most of the models. Subscribe to Open, on the other hand, is really good long term, but there's no really good short term solution how to get to a certain number of subscribers. So we thought, why not combine the two? So we take the good thing of Diamond Open Access funding and the good thing of Subscribe to Open, and that's how Launch to Open was born. And we just announced this less than a month ago, so this is very fresh. Um, and so how does it work? It's an annual process like Subscribe to Open. We're based on subscriptions, and that's a key difference to other Diamond Open Access models where it's like a voluntary donation or some crowdfunding like thing that is a one-off contribution. So we are interested in a long-term funding. So it has to be something that is recurring. We have recurring costs, so we also need recurring revenue. And every launch to open journal has a published annual target that is really based on the projected costs. So we just look into our costs, see how much does it cost to produce this journal. Alongside this, there's a transparent report of where these costs actually go. Like, is this typesetting? Is this editorial work? Is this technology work, programming, the platform, and so on? And we publish regular updates on the progress of income. So we also are transparent about our revenue that we make. So you can clearly see, okay, currently we're at 5%, 10%, whatever. And I can just briefly click through here to show you how this looks like. So let me just pick one of the two journals. So you have a report here saying how much money we need for 1 year. And this is the amount that we have to make through subscriptions. And then you can see where this money is actually going. So this is a big chunk is often in mathematics in typesetting and copy editing. Then there is a big chunk on hosting, access, metrics, and then there are like smaller portions of sales is the one piece which is a bit higher in the first year, obviously, because you need to do a lot to get to that target. And then you have printing, editorial. There are some compensations for the owner of the journal. So this journal is owned by another society, and they decided to leave their commercial publisher, which was Springer in that case. And there is a journal development fund, which is like a buffer, so you can react to unforeseen changes in costs or in output. Um, and for other publishers, this would be called like the profit margin, but we're like owned by a non-for-profit society. So what we rather say is we put this in a journal development fund, and this is not profit that is extracted from the research ecosystem, but remains in there, in this case, for the publication of that journal. So I go back to this presentation. 1 second here. So I just showed you this pie chart. We are launching this new model with two journals now for 27. So these two journals, Archiv der Mathematik and Foundations of Computational Mathematics, are leaving Springer Nature at the end of this year and will start with us at the beginning of 27. And here is a progress bar. Can you see that? It's sitting at 0% at the moment because we just started. But we have to get up to 120,000 euro by January 27. This is where we make the decision, and this is a tough task. Yeah, so we have to get there to cover our costs. Otherwise, we run into a loss. So we spend money that we don't have. Uh, just briefly, what are the benefits of this? For researchers, I think the really crucial item here is that this allows journals to move out of commercial control. And we think it's a quite big deal, actually, that so if this works, we think it works, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't do it. But if this works, this gives a very powerful tool to societies or other community um, run publishers, also universities, to yeah, take control of their journals essentially. And in the best case, you're not asking authors or readers to leave behind the venues that they already know. Um, because so if a journal is owned by another, let's say, society or some independent entity, then they can choose where they publish. And in that case, like the journal can move from publisher A to publisher B, like in this case. There's obviously the case where the journal is owned by the commercial publisher, and there it gets trickier, but it's not impossible. Yeah, it's uglier because essentially the editorial board would have to step down and create a new journal, which is a big step. But it's happening. It just happened last month in mathematics again. It happened in the past couple of times. So there are these editorial board walkouts where they just say, look, we are done with the commercial publisher. We want to start new. But it's a big step. But this also works with this case, but we first want to do this with a clean case, where the journal is free to move the publisher. So yeah, again, the same benefits as for subscribe to open really apply. The authors don't pay anything. There's no burden for them, no invoices. It's compliant with the funder requirements. Um, and for the institutions, it's a really big deal that we're fully transparent with all the costs. So this is something they ask for a long time. And usually publishers don't follow with this. But we now say, look, we have nothing to hide. We just want to do fair and sustainable publishing. That's really all. We don't have crazy profit margins to hide. So let's just be fully transparent. And the prices are tied to real costs, so it's also very reasonably priced. You can basically buy a full subscription of a journal at the cost of 30% of an APC. So a lot less money for each institution and more distributed. And that's a very clear basis for making budget decisions. Again, you know in advance it costs this amount and no surprises in the end. The biggest point really is, I think, that this allows the libraries to align their spending with the stated values that they have, like openness, sustainability, and really community-led publishing. A lot of institutions really ask for this, but it doesn't really just happen by itself. So someone has to make the first step. Um, and there are other initiatives, obviously, like diamond models. But this is now more applicable, let's say, to the case of more established journals that are really bigger and have more financial demands. Um, so just I will stop after this slide and then we can talk. The road to 27, as I said, we have to make the decision in January 27. So by then, we have to go up to 85,000 euro for the one journal and 120,000 for the other journal. And we decided to take on the financial risk with this. It's a big risk. You see the numbers, so you know exactly what we risk here. But we're doing it to fix a structural market problem in publishing, um, where there where we have like barriers that prevent journals from moving. So we take the first step, and now we really need the community in mathematics, but also beyond, and libraries to we need them to act and commit their financial resources to their values. So it's really like we did our part. Now it's down to them to make it really a success. This is out of our hands partially, but obviously we need to build awareness for that new model. So this is what we do currently. We talk to as many people as possible, bring it on the agendas, so libraries and researchers really understand what's going on. And yeah, if we reach the target for 27, we are able to cover our costs. We do open access publishing. You can actually like directly see. Currently, it's not going to be open access if it's hitting the target, which is public, both income and target. Then so you know it will be open access. So in a sense, guaranteed open access. And then we move the journal into the subscribe to open program. So if this works once, it's launched with launch to open, and we move this into subscribe to open, where it then also benefits from some solidarity with the other models that we do not apply in the beginning because it would just drain our financial resources. If we're not able to reach the target, we make a financial loss. There will not be open access in 27. We can repeat it maybe once. And if that doesn't work, then we are in trouble. But it's in any case, it's a very we will have important lessons from this. So we will learn a lot about it. If it's working, great. It will be replicated many times, I hope. If not, we also have to talk honestly about the actions of libraries in the end. So that it will be a very interesting year for us. Yeah. Yeah, that's just a summary of what I said essentially. So I will just stop here, and I'm happy to discuss more about these topics or also other models, thoughts, and whatever you would like to talk about.
Yeah, thank you, Andre, so much for this really very interesting talk, and I hope that we can have a nice discussion here.